This week on the Analog Circle podcast, Phil Spencer speaks out again about the future of Bethesda Games going to other platforms. This guy got real spicy in this interview we're going to go over. We find out about a new feature in NBA 2K21 that can only be experienced on PlayStation 5, and it is quite interesting what they're doing over there with that controller. Let's see, what else do we have here? We get a list of games that will run at 120 frames per second on Xbox Series X. We have more alleged leaks that are coming out about this Nintendo Switch Pro and Microsoft. Now, if this is true or not, I don't know. But Microsoft could be making an announcement very soon about their alleged latest acquisition. All of these stories can be found here and more in episode 148 of the Analog Circle podcast. I am your host, Kiaun Mitchell, and I want to say welcome, and I truly appreciate each and every last one of you guys stopping by to spend a little bit of time with me. Now, before we officially get started, I want to shout out two people. I want to shout out One Subset Tekken, and I want to shout out Mr. Vaughn. I got your voicemail, Vaughn, and I got your email, Mr. One Subset Tekken. We're going to go over those next week. And you know what? That's a segue, matter of fact. Good grief. If you, the listener, would like to be a part of the feedback episode, you can do it two different ways. You can either call in at 443-216-9934 and let your voice be heard, or you can email the show, and the email address is the Analog Circle Podcast at gmail.com. And if you feel so inclined to want to look up some previously recorded episodes of the podcast, just type the Analog Circle Podcast into Google. It will take you to where you need to be, and you know the rest. Enjoy yourself. Now, guys, I'm going to tell you two things. One, I finally got the YouTube channel back up to where I can live stream. I was doing it all weekend, and shockingly, me having about 6 followers on YouTube. I hate to say followers, man. I don't like that word. Just 6 people that are subscribed to the YouTube channel. Man, I felt amazing when I saw 10 people pop up in there. I said, oh man, I'm a star. I feel like I doggone made it out here. So if you want to subscribe to the YouTube channel, because I'm going to definitely be putting up a lot more videos, because I can do it now through the Elgato software. You can go over to YouTube, subscribe, the podcast is up there, and if you want to check it out, I got a lot of Mafia footage up there. That's what I was playing. That game continues to be really good. I'm continuing to thoroughly enjoy it. It's the story over everything again. Hangar 13 does an amazing job at these stories. I mean, if they could just, and granted, I will say, I'm having a much better time with this game than Mafia 3. I want to point that out 100%. It's less bugs. It is some bugs in there, but a lot less. And it's a very, very nice looking game, in my opinion. The character model, some people can say, it could be a little bit better. I gotcha, I understand. But for $40, I have been thoroughly enjoying this game. Just the twists and the turns, and just seeing how these different relationships are playing out. It's such a good game, man. And Hangar 13, their storytelling, good gosh, they get an A+ for the storytelling. Even the soundtrack is really good. It's a nice soundtrack. It goes with whatever's going on to set the mood up a lot better. It's a really good game. I still would give it a solid 8. even to this day, and I'm hours into the game now. And I've thoroughly enjoyed it. But if you're still on the fence and you don't mind spoilers, because there are some spoilers, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel, check it out. I was bumming it up. I was doing terrible. I was not playing to my greatest. I mean, good grief, I must have retried some of these missions like 15 times. And I mean, eventually I got through it, but man, it was a struggle. But that's enough of that though, guys. That was all I was into this week, not too much more. But without further ado, and I can tell you guys, this is going to be a long show. It's going to be a little bit longer than an hour. But before we get into that, the gaming news, I want to let you guys know one thing, man. If some of you guys might have realized or noticed that I haven't been giving out any gift cards lately, the $25 gift cards, and it's really, I'm gonna just be honest with y'all, and I'm gonna level with y'all here. I got a little down, man. I got a little down. I started feeling bad about it because I had, it was two gift cards. It was a Nintendo gift card and it was a PlayStation gift card that I had given away. And of course, nobody told me that they got it. So I just went on to the Switch, typed in the code, and it was still there. It worked. I was like, oh my gosh, man, what about this PlayStation card? Went in, typed in the PlayStation card number, and it worked. I was like, God, dog. So I ain't gonna lie to y'all, man. I kept them. Because I'm like, good grief, these were given out like about a month ago, maybe like 2 months ago, and nobody claimed them. So you guys got to let me know if that's something that you guys want me to continue to do, because if nobody's claiming them, it's not worth me spending the money on them. So just let me know. Definitely not complaining, but it's just my way of just giving back to y'all. I mean, genuinely, when I say I appreciate you guys listening, honestly, that's why I give them out, because I really, really appreciate you guys supporting me. So just let me know if that's something you guys want me to continue to do, or if I should scrap it. Just let me know. But anyway, enough of the crying and whining and whatnot. Let's go ahead and get into what we all come here for, and that is the gaming news. It went down. Now why the heck did I say man? This ain't no McDonald's commercial, man. Anyway, let's get things started with some positive news from CD Projekt Red, where they posted this on Twitter, and I quote, Cyberpunk 2077 has gone gold. See you in Night City on November 19th. End of quote. So now we can all just breathe a sigh of relief, because the game is making it out this year. Many people were on the fence and were wondering, good grief, they've already delayed it twice. Is it going to be a third delay? But nope, these guys, they're in crunch. The game has gone gold, and we will see it this year. One of my most highly anticipated games of the year. I think it's going to get a 9 to a 9.5 when it's released. And man, is that crazy expectations? Maybe so. Maybe I'll level it down to a 8.5 or a 9. But CD Projekt Red with The Witcher 3 set such a bar that, I mean, can you go below what you set as the bar, and I would say the standard for westernized RPGs? I don't know. We're going to see how this all comes out in the wash, but I got this game rating very, very high, and definitely being in the conversation for Game of the Year, because Jeff Keighley did come out and say that they were going to make sure that this game, if it did get nominated, it would be in the category for Game of the Year. And I think that's a little shaky and a little spotty, because this game is going to be coming out after that cutoff date. And they sure didn't do any favors with Star Wars. What was it? Force Unleashed, I believe. Was that the one? Force Unleashed? Correct me if I'm wrong on that. But the EA game, man, for some reason, I don't think that's it, but I'm going to stick with it at the moment. But yeah, they didn't do them any favors. They went on and told them, hey, you guys are past the mark. Sorry, you can't get in. Try next year. Maybe we'll put you in there. So I think that's a little unfair. But anyway, getting back to the point. Looks like Cyberpunk 2077 will release this year. Let's go ahead and move on into the next story. Now, this actually is not a story. The last episode, I forgot to talk about it, and this is weeks and weeks old now. But what were your guys' thoughts on Spider-Man Remastered on PlayStation 5? Now, for me, the reflections look really nice in certain scenes, but I didn't really see that big of a leap graphically. I mean, I know they switched character model faces, which is really cool, but it really didn't matter to me. People were losing their mind. God dog, this is an old story, man. Good grief, I forgot all about this. Sometimes, like I tell you, I write this stuff down and man, I'm moving on to the next story. And when I come back to it, sometimes I'm like, oh shucks, I did write that down. So just giving y'all a little peek behind the curtain. But yeah, I didn't understand why people were mad about the face. I guess they kind of got, some game players got a little attached to the Peter Parker character face model, I guess, and they didn't want to see the switch. But to me, I didn't think it really made a big difference. I mean, it was something that I guess Insomniac could hang their hat on and say, hey, that is something that we did from the ground up. But outside of that, I mean, outside of the game having a bit of a better draw distance and the game actually looking a little lighter, like it lightened up to be more of a bluish color than a darkish yellow color, I didn't really see what the big fuss was. So it might be one of those situations where you have to see the game actually run. Well, no, I actually saw the video. I saw it side by side. And I didn't see a big difference, but what were you guys' thoughts about the Spider-Man Remastered on PlayStation 5? I would definitely like to know. But anyway, let's talk about some Nintendo leaks. Now, the Nintendo Switch Pro has been long rumored to exist. That's nothing new. But what is different is now a European retailer called MediaMarkt, which is a pretty major store in that region, recently updated its website with several references to a Nintendo Switch Pro. And the comic book article went as far as to say that the console will populate when searching for the Switch software, and Switch accessories. So does this mean that there is more evidence that this Nintendo Switch Pro is a real thing? My thing is this. I think that Nintendo, and just to talk about something I didn't write down, Nintendo has made another milestone. They have just surpassed the Xbox 360 for most consecutive number one wins when it comes to it being the number one console. The Xbox 360, I believe, had 22 months, and the Nintendo Switch has had 23. So here we go again, another huge milestone. These guys have not slowed down. They have not missed a beat. And here you have Xbox One X and PlayStation 4 Pro, along with their base models, the 4 and the 1, that are way more powerful than the Nintendo Switch, but the Nintendo Switch continues to outsell them. So to me, I think that eventually this Nintendo Switch Pro will happen. It's inevitable that it will happen, but do I think that it's going to come anytime soon? Some of these reports are saying that we're going to see it next year, but seeing this momentum that Nintendo has and they continue to have during their Switch generation console, I don't know if they're going to necessarily rush it out to market. And I mean, it's basically a situation of if it's not broke, don't fix it. Your console continues to sell well. It's no reason to do anything to disrupt that and tell people, guess what? We got a new model coming out. It's bigger, it's better, it's faster. It's no need of doing that, especially, like I said, when your current model is selling out amazingly well. I mean, on eBay, just talking about the demand for the Switch, they had one on there for $370 that they were selling it for. Now, I don't know if it's still a shortage with the Switch or whatever's going on, but if it is, that says a lot that a console that's been out since 2017 is selling this great 3 years later. And you got new consoles coming out from Microsoft and Sony. And it doesn't look like there is any interruption with what's going on over on the Nintendo side. So we'll have to wait and see to know if this is true and that the Nintendo Switch is coming out next year. But for me, I'm starting to think more and more that even if it was a point that the Pro was going to come out, well, that alleged Switch Pro was going to come out, I'm thinking that with these numbers, Nintendo is probably just going to put that in the tuck and just wait until they have no choice but to come out with it. But I don't think we're going to see it anytime soon, but I could absolutely be wrong. But let's go ahead and let's move on into the next story. So with these next-gen consoles, I was just talking about them, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X. With these next-gen consoles on the horizon, a lot of us, including myself, are expecting a lot of improvements. And one of the biggest that we're looking forward to is the frame rates. And I was reading this Slash Gear article where they pointed out several different games that will run at 120 frames per second on Xbox Series X and the S. Now, here is the list as follows. You got Dirt 5. Oh, man, Dirt 5. God dog, we're going to talk about him in a minute. Dirt 5. You got Gears 5. Ori and the Will of the Wisp, which is a fantastic game. You got Orphan of the Machine. Don't know what that is. Rainbow Six Siege. That game continues to hold on. God dog. You have Second Extinction. I'm very interested in that game. That's that first-person shooter dinosaur game. You got Monster Boy. Don't know anything about that. And looks like it's called Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom. You got Metal Hell Slinger. Don't know what that is. Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. That's kind of impressive. You got DMC 5 Special Edition. I believe that runs at 120 on the PlayStation 5 as well. But you got Halo Infinite, which, God dog, the way that game looked, I would have to imagine it could run at 120. Let me stop the Halo slander. God dog. Let me see what else we got here. An Exo Mecha. Don't know what that is either. So some of these games, yeah, we've heard of. Well, I've heard of. I don't want to speak for you guys. But some of these, I have no idea what they are. But for now, that is the list of games that will be running at 120 frames per second. I'm interested to see what Ori and the Will of the Wisp looks like at 120. But let's go ahead and move on. Don't need to harp on this story too long. In quick news, though, sticking with Xbox, the Medium will release on December 10th. So it's not going to be there at launch, but a month later, you'll be able to get your hands on it. The Medium, I don't know, man. It's not necessarily a game that I'm looking forward to. It just doesn't look. It just doesn't look like it's next gen. Who knows that dual reality thing they got going on? Two realities rendering at once. That is very, very impressive. I have to say that's great. But I would be lying to y'all if I said, "Oh, the Medium. Oh my gosh, I can't wait for that. Oh, it's gonna be something else." Nah, man, I'm straight. I'm good. But who knows? Maybe it comes out and it does amazing things. I look at the Medium like that game Tell Me Why. It's like, oh, come on, man. Come on, man. Come on. It's just not appealing to me. And that's weird. It's strange because Detroit Become Human, all of David Cage's games outside of, it's one of them I didn't play yet. Ah, man, I forget the name of it. I don't want to screech the whole doggone podcast, so I'm gonna move on. I do enjoy those kind of games, but they tell me why, John. I was like, oh, man, come on. Anyway, let's go ahead, man. Let's move on to the next story, because I'm slowing down the podcast. We try to get you guys out of here in an hour. I'm gonna try. Now, so, like I was talking about, Dirt 5 was shown off earlier this week, and I didn't really see anything special during the Digital Foundry breakdown. I think most people didn't see anything special about that doggone joint. But one thing I did find interesting is that according to Insider, I believe this guy's name is Shapes How _Ed. I'm just gonna call this guy Ed. While he was on a podcast hosting it, he was accompanied by Tom Warren, who works for The Verge. Now, during their discussion, the Bethesda acquisition was brought up where Ed, because his name, I think, is Shapes How, SHAPES, HAL, I don't know. Ed, I'm gonna call him that. He said that based on what he was told by sources close to Microsoft, the company is putting the final finishing touches on acquiring another new studio. And Ed believes that this new studio has been specifically chosen last as to, quote, oh no, this is not a real quote, but the quote in the article did say, save the best for last. But I gotta shout out Randall Thor. He actually looked into this and he looked at the interview and he found that in nowhere in the interview did any of these guys or Ed say that they were saving the best for last. So let's scrape that out of there. But he does believe that we will find out the latest acquisition of what Microsoft has picked up before the Series X and S release. So could we be in a situation where we find out this new studio? Some people believe that it's a publisher. I'm like, pump the brakes. Wait a minute. I don't think you're going to have Microsoft picking up another publisher. I mean, who you think they're going to get? EA? Ubisoft? Take-Two? Interactive? Come on, man. That's not going to happen. I think people just need to chill. I truly think it's just going to be another studio. And whatever studio it is, I'm still riding high off of the Bethesda acquisition, man. I think that was still a phenomenal acquisition, and anything outside of that is like bonus points. But people, they just continue to think that they're going to get Sega and all of these other companies. I'm like, I just don't see it. But the point of me bringing this up is, if this is true by this guy _Ed, and Microsoft actually announces another studio in a few weeks, because we know we're less than a month away from the Xbox Series X and S releasing, how amazing would it be that, I mean, we can go to Dreamland. I truly don't think this is going to happen, but since so many people want to believe that it's a publisher, WB, let's say they pick up WB Games or someone like that. I mean, good grief. It would be incredible, but I would just say, just lower the expectations, just lower them down to a level where you won't be disappointed if it's not doggone Take-Two, the parent company of Rockstar, or something like that. I think that sometimes we as fans, we want everything. We want the moon. We want the stars. We want the quasars. We want everything on a silver platter. And when we don't get what our mind has set on the announcement being, it's like everything is just a wash. It's like, they got a decent, developer, but, I wanted them to get, Rocksteady or something like that. It's like, good grief, man. Sometimes I think as fans, we just set our expectations too high. And I would say that with this next acquisition, whatever it is, if it's a studio or a publisher, which once again, I say I doubt, I think we should just keep a level head and a balance of what we should expect. They just spent $7.5 billion. I don't think they're going to turn around and spend another 25 or 30 billion on something else. So let's just relax. Let's be excited, because I'm very excited to see who it is. You guys know who I want them to pick up. I want them to pick up People Can Fly. I would love for Microsoft to get People Can Fly games. I mean, they made the best first-person shooter of all time, Bulletstorm. I know some of y'all gonna kill me about that, but I absolutely loved that game. And I think they would be a great fit over there at Microsoft, and they got Outriders coming out, but I digress. Anyway, we'll see what happens with this story. We'll keep our eyes close on it, and hopefully in the next few weeks, maybe, just maybe, we will hear about the new acquisition as far as the studio or whatever that Microsoft has picked up. Let's go ahead and move into the next story. Let's talk about Ghost of Tsushima, because a few things were revealed just as a recap. Ghost of Tsushima Legends, which is the co-op mode, will release. Oh, shucks, this thing is out. Here we go again, another old story. God darn. This dog, I'm going to read it anyway. Shoot, I wrote it. I'm reading this dog on it. Ghost of Tsushima Legends, which is the co-op mode, will release. Well, it's released, but it released on October 16th. It's free. The game also has a new Game Plus mode, which is dope. That's pretty cool. Now, additional trophies, it's going to have armor loadouts, new options for photo mode, and a playtime indicator. Now, you will be able to pet dogs. Oh, yeah, you can pet dogs to make them your allies. But outside of that, in bigger news, the game is back compat on PlayStation 5 and will use the game's boost to allow the game to run up to 60 frames per second, and save transfers will be supported for PlayStation 5. So, I mean, all of this stuff I'm sure you guys were already aware of, so I don't think it's any need of us to continue to spend more time on this story. Let's go ahead and let's move on into some more PlayStation news. So, I want to talk about NBA 2K21 on PlayStation 5, because gameplay director Mike Wang has come up with a very cool feature that you can only experience on PlayStation 5. So according to the IGN article, game players will notice that once their character starts getting tired and starts running out of energy, the sprint trigger will start to become more and more resistant, meaning you will have to pull down harder on the trigger to get him to run. And the opposite effect will happen if your character isn't tired. You will feel less resistance on the L2 trigger. Now, Wang also said, when talking about the new resistant trigger feature, he said this, and I quote, "It's also a great reinforcement tool to understand when you're making players work too hard on the court, which could hit their energy/stamina levels and potentially cause wear and tear on their bodies with our new in-depth injury system." End of quote. So not only do these guys have a new injury system, which I have no idea what it is, they didn't really go into any detail in the article, but the thing that I really, really like that these developers are doing is they are taking advantage of this technology in the PlayStation 5's controller. Here you have it where you're pushing down on that L2 button and it starts getting harder and harder to press it down because your guy is panting, he's tired, he's sweating, he's doggone had a hard game, and you keep on pushing him and you can't get that trigger down far enough to have him run. That is is really, really cool to me. It's a small level. I know to some people are probably going to be like, that's not that impressive. But to me, it just adds to more of the interactivity of the game. It really excites me to see that this is just the beginning, guys. This is the first generation of games that are going to be taking advantage of what this controller can do. Can you guys imagine when it comes to, year 3, year 4, year 5, what they're going to be able to do with this controller if it works as well as we've been hearing? Because it's one thing to hear it from somebody like Jeff Keighley or whoever it is. It's not a shot at him, just saying. It could be anybody out there that has tried it. It's one thing to hear what they say, but once you get it in your own hands and you can actually talk about it for yourself, if it works this way, man, this could be something cool. I'm thinking about it from this perspective too, outside of 2K and outside of the PlayStation 5's controller. We know that VR is coming, and we're going to talk about that a little later, but VR is a thing. It's coming, and I have to imagine that Sony is coming up with some new controllers. Actually, they had some that were prototypes that they were working on, where you could squeeze the controller and it actually made the hand, the VR hand actually respond to the controller on the outside and doing the motions inside the game. I'm just imagining what they'll be able to do with the level of interactivity with the VR controller. This could be something so cool, something that we've never seen before, and quite frankly, something that I've been looking forward to for years now. I know it's just an L2 trigger button press and it's harder to do it, but imagine if you're playing 2K and you got some money on the line. We know people bet when it comes to 2K and Madden. I don't, because I'm going to lose 9 times out of 10. I just can't do it. But some people, these tournaments, can you imagine, what are they going to be playing on? Are they going to be playing on a PlayStation 5 controller or the Xbox Series X controller? And then you think about it, in those competitions, when that trigger starts getting tight and they can't pull it down enough to get that guy to run, it could intensify the matches. That's all I'm saying. It just gives you another level of interactivity with the game. Maybe I'm going too far, but I'm excited to see how this comes out, man. Not just in 2K21, but I'm just so excited about the future of what these games will be able to implement with this controller. Let's go on, guys, and let's move into one of the... Now, this was a highlight story for me. Maybe not the story of the week, but I don't think we had any of those this week. It wasn't no real story of the week. But this one right here, Phil Spencer, this guy getting a little spicy in this doggone... in this interview. Now, like I said, let's move on to Phil Spencer, or as I like to call him Assassin Phil. This guy just shot up the whole gaming industry with this doggone announcement. But, so as we all know, people still have questions about this ZeniMax acquisition. Mainly, will Bethesda Games continue to be released on PlayStation? Well, earlier this week, Steven, I think his name is, Totillo, he sat down with Phil to get more answers about this, where he asked Phil, and I respect this guy, Stephen, he jumped right on in. He said this, and I quote, "Is it possible to recoup a $7.5 billion investment if you don't sell Elder Scrolls 6 on the PlayStation?" That's a heck of a question, man. This guy, he just jumped right into it. He said, I want the smoke, Phil. I want to know, can you get that $7.5 billion back without putting Elder Scrolls 6 on PlayStation? And Phil, he answered, and his answer actually shocked me. He said, yes. And he said it rather quickly, the IGN article pointed out. Now, he continued and said, I don't want to be flip about that. This deal, I don't know what that means. I don't want to be flip about that. I guess he don't want to be, I don't know, what do you call it? I don't know, man. He don't want to be flipped. He don't want to be back and forth with it, I guess. About that, he said this deal was not done to take games away from another player base like that. Nowhere in the documentation that we put together was how do we keep other players from playing these games. We want more people to be able to play games, not fewer people to be able to go play games. When I think about where people are going to be playing and the number of devices that we had, and we have xCloud and PC and Game Pass and our console base. I hate that he put the console last, but I digress. Our console base, I don't have to go ship those games on any other platform other than the platforms that we support in order to kind of make the deal work for us, whatever that means. End of quote. Phil Spencer, he told this guy, listen, we don't need PlayStation. To answer your question in the short, we don't need PlayStation. We got all of these other platforms that we support. As long as we're supporting those platforms, it works for us. We don't have to put it on PlayStation. So to put it all together, no, Phil Spencer did not say that the games will not appear on the PlayStation brand. But he made it abundantly clear that they don't need PlayStation to get that $7.5 billion back. And he answered it pretty quickly. I'm sure the guy asked him, hey, could you get that money back if you didn't put the game on PlayStation 5? Yes. I mean, god darn. He has said, it shocked me. I'm going to tell you this. It shocked me the way he answered it, because Phil usually kind of beats around the bush a little bit. Well, we really like everybody. Everybody's great. We enjoy their platform and all. Nah, Phil just jumped right into his answer, basically saying, no, we don't need them. As long as we're supporting the other platforms that we support, we are fine. Or to say it in his words, it makes the deal work for us, is what he said. So, I mean, good grief. To me, I'm not saying it's a sure bet. It's a sure thing that none of these Bethesda games are coming to PlayStation outside of Ghostwire and the other game that's coming soon, that, what is it, Time Loop, or whatever it's called, by Bethesda. I mean, after those get through their timed phase or whatever, I mean, Phil is saying right here, man, we don't need y'all. We don't need the PlayStation to get our money back. I mean, I've repeated that a million times. Anyway, man, it's no need to really harp on this anymore. I'm just saying that, he basically said what most people already knew. With all of these services, with xCloud, with Game Pass, with PC, and with the console, no, they will get that money back just fine without putting any of their games on the PlayStation brand. Let's go ahead and move on. Go ahead, Phil. I really like that answer. Tell people what you mean. And I loved it. That was great. Let's go ahead and let's switch back, though, because we're already talking about Sony. Let's switch back to Sony, because it looks like the PlayStation 5 could have a feature similar to the Series X. So when you're in the power section of the PlayStation 5 menu, under the Enter Rest Mode tab, it says, quote, charge controllers, download updates, and suspend your games. Don't unplug the AC power cord while in rest mode. End of quote. So because of the wording, once again, it says suspend your games, many people have started to speculate that this could be a quick resume feature on the PlayStation 5, which at one point was advertised as something only the Series X would be able to do. So once again, this feature has not been officially confirmed for PlayStation 5, but because of the wording, people are saying this could be possible. How interesting would that be, though, if the PlayStation 5 did have that kind of, that feature? I think that'd be great. I think everybody would love it. But don't get too hyped because they haven't said it officially. Let's go ahead and move on. Let's keep on with Sony. Now we find out, let me see. Oh yeah, it was confirmed that the PlayStation VR, I told you guys we were going to talk about this. The PlayStation VR does not work with the PlayStation 5's camera. And because of this, the PlayStation 4's camera will need an adapter. So that leads me to the question, when is Sony going to address this? I mean, at first I thought the PlayStation VR just needed a dongle, but now they're saying the camera needs an adapter too? I mean, so when and how do people get these accessories? I mean, Sony has been kind of quiet about those details, and they also said that these accessories would be free. So here you are, less than a month out, and I understand it's been a drip feed of information on the Sony side. I would imagine that they will want their player base that have the PlayStation VR to be able to move it over to the PlayStation 5, play it and enjoy it, and who knows, possibly get a better boost on how the VR unit performs. Maybe it performs a little better, but I think that Sony, they should be getting on this very soon and giving some information about how people that are interested in this can order these accessories that they're going to need to make sure that their PSVR works on their PlayStation 5. So we'll have to stay tuned for that. But in more quick news, Assassin's Creed Valhalla has gone gold. Now here is the direct quote from the Assassin's Creed Twitter account. They said, quote, "We're extremely proud to share that Assassin's Creed Valhalla has gone gold. On behalf of everyone working on the game, we can't wait to see how your Viking saga unfolds your journey to glory. Saga unfolds your journey to glory. Starts on November 10th. I guess that is how they said it. Hashtag Assassin's Creed." Now, by the way, I'm going to ask you guys this. It's great that this has gone gold. Cyberpunk 2077 has gone gold. But what I want to ask you guys is, have y'all seen Assassin's Creed Valhalla lately? Man, I saw something on, I think it was IGN. They were showing off the graphics of this game. My gosh! This game really looks good, man. I feel like the guy in Juice when he was robbing a store and he said, "Hurry up, cause you look good." You know what I'm saying? He was robbing the place, telling people to take off their clothes, man. But, man, I might have been a little inappropriate, good grief. But, anyway, this game looks absolutely amazing, man. It looks incredible. It looks like a real next-gen leap. They were showing Assassin's Creed. Man, I tell you, I can't keep up with them, y'all. The two Assassin's Creeds that came out during the latter part of this generation, Origins. They were showing Origins, and they were, seeing how that looked compared to Valhalla. I was like, wow, that's actually that's a leap. That's a bit of a jump. And I understand they had one out after Assassin's Creed Origins, but it still looks really good. And I know that it gets a lot of hate. It wasn't very well received when it first came out, but Assassin's Creed, it was the one that came out on the Xbox One, Unity. It was like a launch. I don't know if it was a launch title. It might have been. But that game, when it first released, I had it and people disliked it so much because it was bug ridden and it just wasn't optimized very well. But when I got my hands on it, golly, I really saw a bit of a generational leap when you were looking at his clothes and it actually looked like it was cloth and, it was just the way the cloth moved in the game. It was definitely a bump up from the 360 to the Xbox One. And I think that with Valhalla, it's not only the character models, but the background, the trees, and just the setup of the world. It definitely looks like it's a step above what we've already seen in this current generation. So that just really got me even more excited about the game, and not being able to wait to see how such a game is going to look in person, because this is me looking at it over YouTube. You know, once you get it home, it's always going to look better. It's not going to be compressed. So I'm excited about this. Glad that the game has gone gold. November 10th, we're all going to get our well, not our first look, but I guess official reviews on how the game is. And I'm really looking forward to it, man. But let's go ahead and let's go with the next story. And this next story is a plot twist, because according to SEO and marketing company The Hoth, they are estimating that the Series X could outsell PlayStation 5 2-1 over the holiday. Now, if you are like myself, you are saying, how the world do they figure that? How could that be possible? Well, they said they analyzed. Oh, man. Every time I hear somebody talk about analyzing something, I think about David Packner, man. Shout out to that guy. God dog it. But they said that they analyzed Google Trends data to figure out how people were searching for the two consoles. And since October, interest has settled. I don't know about if it's settled, but despite that, people are searching for the Xbox Series X 2 times more than the PlayStation 5. Now, I mean, for me, I'm saying to myself, I don't know how accurate that is. I understand. I mean, it could be people out there looking at doggone Maseratis and doggone Maybachs and Ferraris more than they're looking up, you know, I don't know, man, Chrysler 300, you know, just because people are looking up something more than the other, that doesn't necessarily mean that's going to translate into dollars. So I was like, I don't know. You know, I've never heard of this Hoth, business. So, you know, I did some research on them. And I mean, they seem pretty legit. You know, they've helped over 200,000 businesses. They've been around for 10 years, which isn't that long, but in business, that is something. That is something. They have made the Inc. 5000 list 3 years in a row, and they even have a 4.5 star rating. So it seems like, okay, they got some legitimacy, you know, with what they're doing. And, oh yeah, and that Inc. 5000 list, if you were wondering what that means, that just means that the company must have been, you know, must have been founded and gathering revenue by the first week of the starting calendar year, and therefore able to show 3 full calendar years of sales. So that's all that means, which means that they're consistently getting different, golly, what is it, man? They're getting a consistent flow of people that's willing to pay, customers. Good grief, that's so hard, Kiaun. Yeah, so, but, I mean, despite all of the stats and all, it seems like I said, they're legit and they got some pretty cool stuff here. I don't know if you can really base that kind of data off of people just looking up one thing 2 times more than the other and saying that it's going to do better. It's going to outsell it 2-1. I just think the momentum that Sony has right now, I just don't see how the world or how the heck this is even possible. So it will be interesting. I mean, both of these consoles come out and that Series S is just selling off of the store shelves, and the PlayStation 4, not PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5 digital is just sitting there on the shelf, and the PlayStation 5 disc version is not moving as much as that Series S. That would be interesting because that is the cheaper model. And like I said, us, the hardcore, we are the minority. We're always the minority. And I think of it like this. People that are into TVs or people that are into like different, I don't know, like speakers or anything that people can view as a hobby. How many of you guys are really into TV tech? You know, the different lines of, you know, resolution or whatever. Or how many people are out there just looking for a big TV and getting it at a good, reasonable price so that they can have a bigger TV, and they don't care about the 4K resolution being real 4K or the, what do they call it? The HDR10 or whatever it's called, the specs of these TVs. I tend to think that more people out there are just looking for a big TV that looks good enough. It looks good and they can get it for a good deal. I mean, the same with so many other things out there. Like I said, whether it's video equipment, stereo equipment, you know, people are just trying to get what they can get and have it do what they need it to do, not necessarily looking for all of the bells and whistles and all of the top of the line stuff. As long as it can get you in the door, people are fine with that. And I think that sometimes us, the hardcore, we forget that. We think that it evolves around us, and the industry is so much bigger than us, man. So I think that, you know, looking at it from that perspective, if they can keep enough S's in stock, because I mean, 4 and 3 and 7 consoles at a store, that ain't going to get you too much. Xbox, you got to have like 20 or 30 of them joints coming through. But from that perspective, just jumping into next generation at $300, I do think that could be something big for them in the long run. But we will see, though. That'd be a crazy storyline that I can see the headlines now. Xbox outsells PlayStation 5 in holiday rush. That would be madness online. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on. And we are about to close out in a few more minutes. We got about 3 more stories to cover. This is another quick news story. Gabe Diaz will be added to Gears 5 multiplayer mode on November 17th. Now, Gabe Diaz, I believe he is the father of, I forget the woman's name in Gears 5. Good grief. I told you my memory is terrible, man. Kate. I think her name was Kate Diaz, right? Yeah, he's her father. And this guy, he was in Gears Tactics. So for anybody that wanted to play him in a Gears game, multiplayer, he will be available on November 17th. Now, let's move on into the next story. Since we were talking about Assassin's Creed Valhalla just a couple of minutes ago, let's switch to another Ubisoft game coming out this year. And that game is no other than Watch Dogs Legion. So we have got some more info about the game from the Ubisoft Live producer named golly, I'm a butcher this dude's name. I'm gonna just spell it out for y'all. It's spelled Lath, which is Lath. Then it's Ieeshe, Lathishi, I guess. Man, is that it? Lathishi? Thillian Nathan, I think is the last name. Thillana. Phil and Nathan, I guess. Anyway, man, getting to the point. It confirmed that the game will run at 4K 30 frames per second on Series X and PlayStation 5, and it will have options players can enable to support ray tracing. That's cool, man. Both consoles running at 4K 30 frames per second. Now, I want to ask you guys, just talking about that just for a minute, do you guys feel a little let down that the Series X is actually performing at the same level as the PlayStation 5, when in reality, the PlayStation 5 has 9 teraflops or 9.2 teraflops, and the Xbox Series X has 12. That's basically 3 teraflops more of power, but yet these two consoles are running at the same doggone performance. Does that bother you a little bit? To me, it does. It does bother me a little bit, because I would think that if you have more, you would use more. But I guess that's where parity might come into play. Oh, man, that sucks if that's the case. But you know, anyway, let's go ahead and move on. That's dope. It's going to be 4K 30 frames per second on both, and you'll have the option to turn on ray tracing in the game as well. That's cool. But let's go ahead and get into the final story of the week. Ken Levine, who is known for the amazing BioShock franchise, is entering the final stages of production on his latest project. Now, Levine is leading work with the name of this team. They're called Ghost Story Games. He's leading this team. And by the way, Ghost Story Games is actually, they're under the parent company Take-Two Interactive. So that's pretty cool. But the game is being described as a narrative-driven sci-fi game with RPG elements. Now, to me, that sounds like, man, that could be BioShock all over again. Sci-fi, RPG elements. I mean, good grief, narrative-driven. All of the things that I absolutely love. But before your expectations, because I had to check mine, before your expectations get too far out of control, I want to let you guys know that the team size is around 35 people. Now, I still think that he could do something amazing. I mean, you just think about it. Moon Studios, yes, they have a few more than 35 people. They have 80 employees, but they were able to create something like Ori and the Will of the Wisp, an amazing playing game. And it's beautiful. Then you go to something like My Friend Pedro, which is another one of my favorite games from this generation that was made by one guy. He made My Friend Pedro, which is still a fantastic game. And then even moving over to MDHR, who have made Cuphead, which is another fantastic game of this generation. That team is only made up of 19 people. So it's definitely possible with somebody like Ken Levine being the leader at the helm, he could come up with something absolutely amazing. And I'm looking forward to it. We haven't heard from this guy in years. So I'm just interested to know what the world has he been cooking up for all of this time. And he might be able to put this small studio that's called, once again, Ghost Story Games, who's under the umbrella of the mighty Take-Two Interactive. Good grief. The studio that built Grand Theft Auto 5, or Grand Theft Auto gave them the name that they have. I have to believe that it's something good here. But anyway, we will see. It was no date that was given, no year, no time. They just said that they think that they think that very soon they'll be showing something off from the game. And I'm all for it, man. I'm here for it. But anyway, that is the end of the gaming news this week. I might get us out of here in an hour, which leads me to the question of the week, and I'm going to get into it rather fast. Has Digital Foundry been compromised? I know y'all saw it already, but I just have to say it officially. After the way, I mean, look, man, I'm putting little dots together. I got to shout out to AB. He thought that they were in the pocket a little before I did. I mean, this was a couple of weeks ago. He thought the Digital Foundry and Microsoft might be a little too buddy-buddy. I didn't really think that. But I will say that when they were talking about Halo Infinite, I was like, man, I don't know, man. How the world can you make these kind of excuses for a game looking like this? There is no excuse. It's not that great. But then I was like, well, I don't know. They gave them early access. Maybe they're just being nice. But isn't that still being compromised? But anyway, I'm going to get past that. The latest story comes from Dirt 5. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Dirt 5, man. Oh man. Look, I am not saying that it's true that they've been compromised. I'm just asking from the outside, looking in like myself, do you think that something is going on here? with Microsoft and Digital Foundry, because it's so strange to me that at the beginning of this console generation, they were ripping Xbox apart with the 900p versus 1080p doggone narrative that was going around. Now, all of a sudden, closing out this generation, going into the next generation, these guys are taking it easy on Microsoft. I think they have been very, very soft on Microsoft lately. Looking at Dirt 5, God, how the world can you still say this still is amazing? Look at the performance. I understand it's going at 120 frames per second, but gee whiz, did you see some of the assets that had to be taken away for it to get to that 120? I don't know, man. Look, we had an hour. That's the question that I have for you guys. I'm thinking that I ain't going to say they compromised. That's I'm not going to just put out stuff like that, but I have to say, just from my vantage point, it just looks like them and Microsoft are a little closer than they have ever been. I will say that, but I want to get you guys' opinion. That's what matters to me. If you want to be a part of the conversation, you can do it two different ways. Either you can call in at 443-216-9934 and let your voice be heard, god dog it. Or you can email the show, and the email address is, of course, the Analog Circle Podcast at gmail.com. I was your host, Kiaun Mitchell, god dog. We went over the doggone hour. Man, we were so close. But I want to let you guys know, thank you again for the amazing support. The numbers, guys, my goodness, just gotta give you guys a round of applause, man. The numbers have just been reaching some levels that I know I've been saying it for the last couple weeks, man, but they keep going up, and it's absolutely, it's heart touching, man. It touches the heart, man. It's warming, man. It just makes me feel just just amazing that you guys really rock out with me, man. I really, really appreciate it so much, But yeah, just keep spreading the word, and I don't want to get too long-winded because we almost hit an hour and 2 minutes. So I'm gonna get on out of here, guys. But before we officially get out of here, always remember, it is not about the consoles. It is about the games. So until next week when we do it again, you guys take care. Be safe out there. Bye-bye.